Welcome again to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. I'm Aaron Bloxall with my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer. Today, we're going to catch you up with all the NHL news and notes, as well as action from the weekend. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Lots of hockey was played. Toronto Maple Leafs have lost 2 in a row. The world is all of a sudden not right anymore. They got found out. They're only 1 goal in the last 2 games, 2 losses. Matt, let's start off with that.
Yeah, so the Leafs had a tough time against the St. Louis Blues, who've really struggled to start this season. But I saw an interesting stat on the Leafs so far. Their play 5-on-5, their goal differential is -9 to start the year. So that's like if it wasn't for their power play and those guys like Matthews, Tavares, Marner, Riley starting so hot to start the season. If you take that all out, they haven't been actually the greatest on 5-on-5, but they're still first place in the Atlantic right now. But they played 2 more games than the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are only 1 point behind them for first place. But we knew the Leafs were going to come back down to earth after that like crazy start by all their players, and right now, yeah, they're coming back down to the rest of the league.
Well, the Tampa Bay Lightning are starting to heat up and clawing their way back into those standings. And the Boston Bruins sputtered a little bit on this Western Canadian road swing, losing 3 straight, but 1 was in overtime. Actually, 2 of them were in overtime, 1 to the Oilers, 1 to the Canucks. And the Montreal Canadiens still surprising everyone in second place right now in that Atlantic division. What do you like about their game right now?
Yeah, it's just I think everybody's just buying in right now, and I think I brought up in our last show is that Claude Julien's is playing the best guys that he thinks can win the game every night. And Carey Price continues to give the Habs a chance to win every single night in net. I think he's only one win back of Patrick Waugh right now in the Habs franchise record books. But yeah, that top line of like Brendan Gallagher. Continues to go with Gallagher leading the way there. But yeah, I really like their start. They're 4-1-2 right now, third in the Atlantic, and hopefully they can keep things up because a lot of these Canadian teams like the Canucks, Ottawa, and Montreal, teams that we all thought were going to be at the bottom of the league, have all gone off to really good starts to start the season.
Yeah, Ottawa is another surprising team in that Atlantic division, especially with a lot of the injuries they have to some of the younger players and even some of their veterans. Can you see them continuing this pace? I don't see how it's possible, but they keep surprising me game in and game out.
Yeah, so well, at least on the health front, they're going to start to get some help. Cody Ceci is supposed to be back along with Alex Formenton and Max McCormick. I think all 3 of those guys are supposed to be slated to be back in the lineup, I believe, tomorrow night. So that's good. But Craig Anderson has been playing really well. He has a .920 save percentage, even though his goals against average is at 3 goals per game. He's been playing really well in net, which from last season between him and Condon, they basically both sucked for the entire season. Even though the team in front of them weren't the greatest, but at least right now they're getting some goal support to start this year, and both of them have come back to start really strongly to start the season, despite all the injuries in front of them.
Let's jump to the Metropolitan Division. We had a show last week where the New Jersey Devils were 4-0. They've now dropped 3 straight. Are they a team that's going to compete for that first place finish in the Metropolitan Division, or is the other teams just too good?
Yeah, so it's actually 2 straight. They're 4-2, so it's not as bad. But
and maybe it feels like 3.
Yeah, but yeah, that division is starting to get more clumped together. Like Carolina is still in first place in the division, but they're 4-3-1 now after that really hot start. So you're starting to see all the teams start to clump together. Like the point differential between Carolina in first place and Washington and Philadelphia, who is actually in the 6th spot out of the playoffs, is only 1 point. So it can go either way, just with how that division is. Like you got Washington, Philadelphia, Columbus, all at 8 points, and then with Carolina all the way up at 9. So it's just everybody's starting to come back down to earth and starting to get things going. But it'll be interesting to see because Pittsburgh and Washington defensively haven't been the greatest. And with Columbus, Bobrovsky's had a really rough start to start the season. His save percentage is below 900, and his goals against average is around 3.8 goals against per game. With a couple of rough outings, especially that Tampa Bay Lightning game with him not game pulled in that game, really roughed up his stats.
It is super tight. Like you said, only 1 point between 6 teams. Man, and the better teams are starting to win again. Like, Washington, Columbus, Pittsburgh, they're all starting. They seem to be getting on the right track. Columbus getting some good injury news back today. Can you update on us on that since I think it's going to really help them push that number 1 spot?
Yeah, so Seth Jones is supposed to be making his debut tomorrow night for Columbus, which is huge because I think we both had him as like a top 5 defenseman in the NHL and a potential Norris candidate for this season. But just some bad luck in the preseason forced him out with that knee injury. But yeah, huge news for Columbus because with the big carousel on their back end, with guys being in and out of the lineup, getting Jones back in the lineup will really solidify that back end and put guys in their right place for where for all the defensemen that they have. Guys like Marcus Nativaara and Ryan Murray can be moved down the lineup and put in better situations.
Let's jump to the Central Division. My team that I picked to win the Stanley Cup, the Nashville Predators, having an unbelievable start. But why don't you comment on them? They do have some injury news as well. But also, let's comment on them first, and we'll jump to some of the other teams in that division.
All right, yeah. So Nashville's off to a 7-1 start. I'm not sure if any of you guys saw Peter Laviolette's post game with the media. He was wearing a bull mask over his head because he said if the team swept their road trip through Alberta, that he'd do the post game interview with a huge bull mask. I guess it's been part of their team to start the season. But with Pekka Rinne going down in Calgary after colliding with one of his teammates, UC Saros, their backup goalie, who I think is going to be a star number 1 goalie in the making here, has really stepped up with a 4-0 start with 1 shutout and a .945 save percentage to start the season. But that big line of Forsberg, Arvidsson, and Johansson have really stepped up in their back end. Subban scoring his first shorthanded goal of his career in Edmonton on the weekend, and Roman Josi getting a couple goals coming out of this weekend. It's just they're basically the best. Or the depth is the best in the league, I think, from first to fourth line, and even they're getting guys like Zach Rinaldo, who scored the game winner in Calgary. It's like you thought this guy was going to be out of the league, but I guess with the Austin Watson suspension, they like having that one tough guy. But he's been in the lineup for every game to start this season, and they're getting production from everybody. Yeah,
and where was I going with my next thought? I lost my train of thought. I know where I was going. With those 2 great goaltenders, remember expansion's only a couple of years away. Could Pekka Rinne land on the Seattle expansion roster if they hold on to him for too long? Because protecting both those goalies, as you know, will not be possible. So it'll be interesting to see when the time comes.
Yeah, I think the best thing here for Nashville is that Rinne being a UFA at the end of the year, even if they want to bring him back, they don't have to give him a no trade clause, which Nashville they don't give out no trade clauses to any player. Right now, Rinne is the only player that has a no trade clause on Nashville. But with his contract coming up, they can move away from that. And with Saros's play, even going back to last year, being really well, playing really well, and especially for a goalie that's only 5'11", which is crazy. It's like you got Pekka Rinne who's 6'5", and Saros being 5'11". It doesn't matter what the size is in Nashville. They're both playing really great, and they're both Finnish as well. So those Finnish goalies in the league. They usually, once when they come in, they usually dominate as soon as they get in the league.
Well, it doesn't hurt to have that defense in front of you night in and night out either. Colorado Avalanche absolutely playing fantastic hockey right now, starting the season 5-1-2. Did anybody else see this coming? Because that top line is just dynamite right now.
Yeah, so I think Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen just set franchise records tonight, with both extending to a 9-game point streak to start the season. Mikko Rantanen has 3 goals, 15 points through 8 and a little bit of the games, and MacKinnon also has 8 goals and 15 points in 9 games. And Gabriel Landeskog, who had a heck of a weekend, scoring a hat trick and then 2 goals in the next game, is up to 7 goals and 11 points this season. So that number one line, it's just like you cannot stop them right now, no matter who they're playing. And their goaltending's been really good. I know Grubauer had a really good game against Carolina on the weekend, and Semyon Varlamov, who's 3-0-2 to start the season with .948 save percentage through those 5 games. It's just that goaltending duo has been really good to start the season.
Well, and the Winnipeg Jets are in third in that division right now, but playing really good hockey as well, 5-2-1 to start. They are, I think, what we expected them to be, but fourth and fifth, Chicago Blackhawks, Minnesota Wild, both with 10 points, both coming out of the gate strong as well. This division is definitely deep this year. Metropolitan Division's deep. What's the better division, Matt?
Ooh, I think the best division right now would be the Central Division. I would have to go with. I think Corey Crawford had a good bounce-back game on the weekend after losing his first start. He made 37 saves on the weekend as I tried to against the Arizona Coyotes. So he's back at it. I think a good thing with Chicago, interesting topic, Alex DeBrincat set a record for Chicago. He had 7 goals through his first 7 games, which made him the youngest to do so in Hawks history to start the season. Though his point streak ended last night, I think that's a really interesting thing there, as I sort of stumble over my words right now.
Well, let's talk about that game last night. There was also another record set in that game by the opposing team, the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, so Cam Ward faced 33 shots in the second period and made 30 saves, which is an NHL record since they started tracking it, the shots per period in 97-98. And Tampa Bay ended up getting 55 shots on goal as they won 6-3. But with Tampa Bay, they're starting to go full blast here. After only playing a couple of games in that first week to start the season, they're really starting to roll this season right now.
Well, their backup, Louis Domingue, actually looked really good last night too. Chicago had a ton of scoring chances the other way. It was a real track meet of a game for sure. But let's move on to the, I want to call it the Pacific Division.
Yeah,
the Pacific Division. It's funny because they changed the name of the division so many times. I want to call it the Smythe Division still. But we have the Anaheim Ducks in first right now, Calgary Flames, Vancouver Canucks in second. A lot of the other teams are starting to bunch up. Who do you like out of those teams right now? Vegas is on a winning streak. And then we'll talk about the one team that's surprising everybody, who's going the opposite direction and trending the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Pacific Division is really interesting right now because you got Calgary and Vancouver at 5-3, both second and third in the Pacific, and Anaheim's still in first place at 5-3-1. But I think they're going to be crashing down to earth pretty fast here. As I saw a stat, they're averaging 38 shots against per game and only 24 shots for. But if it wasn't for John Gibson, who's 4-2-1 to start the season with a .949 save percentage. If it wasn't off for him to start this season, the Ducks, you would think, would be at the bottom of the league here if it wasn't for strong goaltending. And Gibson's starting to change my mind on where I ranked him in my top 10 goalies to start this season. I had him as an honorable mention, but the way he started the season, man, this guy's been like a top 5 goalie in the NHL so far. But yeah, with Vancouver and Calgary, the goaltending, even though it slipped a little bit in Winnipeg, Markstrom, after missing the last 3 starts, had a really strong night against the Boston Bruins in the 2-1 overtime victory. Bo Horvat has been on fire these past few games. 3 goals in the past 4 games, 2 of them game winners. While we wait for Elias Pettersson to come back. Update on that is that he was back at the.
We're going to get Petey back.
yeah, he was back at the morning skate this morning, and he's in a practice tomorrow with the team. And then hopefully sometime on this road trip, he will be back as long as things continue to progress, which I don't think there'll be any setbacks with the way things have been going. But yeah, with Vegas, they're back up to 500, 4-4. Fleury had a really good weekend, getting 2 wins, and he passed Glenn Hall for 10th all-time on the NHL wins list with his 408th win in his NHL career. And I think he could potentially get into that top 3 on the win list. I know Luongo is only a few, probably like 15 wins back or so of Ed Belfour for 3rd. But with Fleury's age and his continued great success in net, I think in a couple years he could be pushing for that top 3 spot with guys like Luongo and Lundqvist as the only guys in the top 10 that are still playing right now. And then Edmonton's starting. They're all right. They're 3-3 right now. They've had some ups and downs.
Well, the team that's trending downwards is the Los Angeles Kings. Kovalchuk or not, these guys are 2-5-1. Are they really missing Dustin Brown this much, or is this just the LA Kings and they just are getting too old?
Yeah, it's like I think a big thing is age, but some guys aren't producing as much. Like that 70s line of Toffoli, Carter, and Pearson haven't done a whole lot. I know Carter's had a couple good games here and there, but Kopitar and Kovalchuk haven't been too great, and their power play's just been awful to start this season. So if your special teams aren't going and your big guns aren't going, I know Dustin Brown had a really good season last year, but if you take his offensive numbers from the past few years before that, the Kings had still been doing really well, even with him not playing the puck in the net and getting points on the board. But yeah, it's just a thing that it's just like the draft picks haven't been the greatest for LA over the past few years. I know they got like a few guys that they want to get in the lineup. I know Gabe Velarde has had a back injury to start this season. I believe he's still with the club, but I know they also sent down prospect Anderson back to junior today. But yeah, it's just a thing. Jonathan Quick, I know he's only played in 3 or 4 games, but his save percentage is only at 85 to start this season. So that's not good numbers, especially for a guy like Jonathan Quick, who's been one of the most consistent goalies over the past 8 years or so. But yeah, age and lack of production from those big guys has really put the Kings in a tough spot.
So to wrap today's show up, give me your top 3 power rankings right now in the NHL. And I'll tell you mine quick while you think of yours. Mine are definitely Nashville, Toronto, and then Colorado are my top 3.
Okay, yeah. So my number 1's the Nashville Predators. My number 2 is the Colorado Avalanche. And my number 3 is the Tampa Bay Lightning. So it's pretty similar. But I think some teams to keep an eye on, though, that have been doing pretty well of late is the Buffalo Sabres. Are 5-4, and they've been getting some pretty good goaltending from Linus Ullmark and Carter Hutton. And Jeff Skinner had a really good weekend, getting a hat trick and another goal last night in Anaheim as he starts to get his footing. He's up to 5 goals in 9 games to start the season in Buffalo. So that's I think that's a team to keep an eye on. As fans, I remember watching that first game of the regular season, and the fans were already booing the team production, but they're starting to get their footing as the season keeps going.
Final word to wrap things up before we end the show.
All right, yeah. So the Canucks are facing the Washington Capitals tonight. Anders Nielsen is back in net over Jacob Markstrom, who I thought had a really good game. So we're seeing some competition in net there with Travis Green. And some other games tonight are the Carolina Hurricanes and the Detroit Red Wings, Colorado versus Philadelphia, and St. Louis is in Winnipeg tonight. So some big matchups here as some of the bigger teams. We'll see if they can continue to roll. But yeah, I think we basically covered everything from this weekend. So nothing really to add on. But yeah, thanks to all the people that watch us. Continue to hit that like button and share us. And we really appreciate you guys tuning in.
Yes, that like button, the one that's like right down there. Hit it. Hit subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Remember to tell your friends about us. Thanks again for watching this episode of B&B Hockey Talk. We'll be back this Wednesday with our next episode. Everyone have fun. Watch lots of hockey. Cheer for your favorite team. Leave your comments below. We'll see you on Wednesday.